Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to introduce Eldert for his next session on the service bus deep dive. It is not, we all know it's not quite easy and consistently performing in the Azure communities. Despite joining Microsoft, Eldert is able to do that for us continuously. In fact, he's traveled to 15 different countries in the last couple of years just to perform in the community activities. So that shows how committed he is to the Azure community. So it's his mission to make it easier for people for diverse backgrounds to get started and find their place in Azure industry. So I hope this session will be helpful for everyone, and I invite Eldert to the stage.
Welcome everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying the conference so far. So I'm Eldert Grootenboer. I come from the Netherlands, living in Vancouver now, and I'm the program manager for Service Bus. So what we are going to do today. So today I want to give you first a quick introduction. I think most people here will know Service Bus in one way or another, but just if there's any new people, just like a very quick introduction, like what is Service Bus and what can you do with this. Then we go to the recent releases. So we had a couple of different releases in the couple of last months, so we're going to go over that. We're going to see what we released, what are the reasons behind this, what were we thinking when we released this. We'll have a look at what's coming soon. So like 2 features that will be like private preview very soon. And then a little bit of roadmap, another 2 features where we're going to see like, okay, what are we actually working on? And finally, a bit about how do we actually build all these features? Like how do we think about these features? What were we thinking like when we were choosing one feature or another? And also a bit about like how does this work under the covers? So like I said, first a quick introduction in Service Bus, just for the people that might not know this yet or might not have worked with this as much. So Service Bus is a platform as a service queue pops up message broker. So we have queues, which is like you put something in, you have a receiver that gets it out, and it gets delivered in order. We also have topics, you put something in, you have one or multiple subscriptions, and you can route those messages to the subscriptions depending on filters and things like that. Of course, Service Bus is fully managed, it's a PaaS service, so we take care of the infrastructure, we take care of everything, you just use it in your applications and you don't think about all the stuff that we are thinking about for you. We have JMS 2.0 support, we are fully AMQP 1.0 compliant, so of course we want to make sure that this is interoperable, so if you already are on a different message broker, we make it easy for you to switch, and we make sure we adhere to the standards. We have a polyglot SDK, so we have different SDKs. So let me quickly check my notes so I don't forget any of them. So of course .NET, Java with JMS 1.0, 2.0, and Azure SDK. We have Python, TypeScript, and Go. So of course, as Microsoft, we want to be open. We want everyone to be able to use our services. So we make sure you can use the languages that you are familiar with and that work for you. We are cross-client, so of course we make sure that we support everything. So we also support, of course, .NET Core, so you can basically run this anywhere. We have industry-leading reliability and availability, and I will show you some more of those numbers later on. When we say like we are reliable, what does this mean? And of course, we integrate with all other different Azure services. And to give you a couple of examples, Event Grid, of course, where you can actually get events when messages are ready. We integrate with Logic Apps, we integrate with functions, with the Power Platform, with Dynamics 365, with Stream Analytics. So we may want to make sure that once you're in that ecosystem that you're like very easy to get started there, but also very easy to expand. And so we want to make sure that you can do messaging your way. So we have 3 different tiers. We have the basic tier, which is only queues, and you can just schedule messages, but it's like the very simple tier. Then we have the standard tier, which is also the same as basic pay as you go. So you pay per message, you pay base price on your subscription, you pay get X messages for free, and then there's a tiered model for your messages after that. On there we already have some more features, like you can do deferrals, you can do transactions, you have topics there. But I think the most important one that we have is the premium tier. And I think if you're using your messages for anything that is important, you should probably be on this tier. because this is where all the nice things are happening, basically. Also keep in mind, basic and standard are actually on a different architecture than premium is. So of course we get a lot of requests like, hey, we have this in premium, can you not just move this to standard? No, we can't, because like a lot of those things are just like either they are really like more enterprise, where of course you pay a bit more, but you also get those enterprise features. But also it's just sometimes that we cannot move this because of the different architecture. So of course you get some questions about it every once in a while. But that is like why we don't do this. But of course on the premium tier you get your VNet integration, you get your JMS support, you get your large messages. Like there's all these different features that we have there that I think if you actually care about your messages and if you care about your messaging scenarios, you should definitely be on this tier. So I said we have industry-leading reliability and availability. So what does this mean? Let's have a look at the numbers. So monthly we do about 2.3 trillion messages over Service Bus Premium. That's a lot of messages. Of those, on that, we have a 99.993 success rate. This is our internal success rate. So this means anything that failed, like maybe a node got shut down, maybe something restarted in our infrastructure. This is what you see here. If you use our SDKs, you will get even more reliability. Because our SDKs have built-in retries, have built-in features that make sure that even if something happens on our side, we still make sure that your messages are getting processed, and we always make sure that your messages are never lost. So that's for premium. So let's have some bigger numbers for standard and basic. 167 trillion messages per month. And here we have 99.999%. Of course, like I said, on the premium we are doing a lot more stuff, so also there's more components that can have something happen. Also here, once again, this is our internal success rate, so if you actually look at the success rate as a customer that you get, it's even more nines. And this is why we are saying that we are that industry-leading reliability and availability. We make sure that your messages are being kept, and we make sure that we will never lose these. So let's have a look at the recent releases. So first of all, a feature that has been long requested, disabling local authentication. We get a lot of customers that are asking like, so let's actually first go to the authorization models before we go there. So Service Bus has two authorization models. The one that's always been there was SES tokens. So basically you have a SES key, either on your namespace or on a queue or on topic, and you gave that connection string or that token to your consumers. Or if you were already thinking ahead a bit, you might have a token provider where you could already do some extra authentication. But this means that you have that one key that you're sharing, and so if that key gets compromised, for example, you want to throw out the partner because they've been doing something bad, you have to re-roll the key. Also, you just have to re-roll that key every once in a while because you want to make sure that that key is updated every once in a while because who knows who got access to this key, right? So there's a lot of handling that you have to do here. Like I said, many of our customers actually build their own token provider that then would use this key to actually give out access tokens. But this, of course, there was a lot of hassle. So at some point we introduced Active Directory. So with Azure AD integration, you can just use your Azure AD RBAC to do your authentication. Once again, this can be done on namespace, but also on entities. And this allows you to have much more fine-grained control over this. Because now you can just have a user or a group in your Active Directory that you give access to. This also allows you to work with managed identities. So you can actually have applications that just use a managed identity, and so you don't no longer need any connection strings or like keys in your source code or with your source code somewhere. You just use that identity, and so you have much more security there as well. So what our customers asked is, hey, can you disable this SES key? Because especially that root main managed namespace token, that was very powerful because once someone got access to that token, they could basically do anything. And so for quite a while, our advice was, okay, just rotate the key automatically every minute or so. But of course, that's not what you want to do. We actually want to remove that key. And so that's what we did. So as you can see in the portal, you can now just go to your namespace and say, I want to disable local authentication. And this will completely remove that SES token authentication. From that point on, you can only use Azure AD RBAC. So this was one that was quite a bit, especially like the enterprise customers that we were working with were asking this, because this was for them a security breach, which meant for a lot of them they could not use our service or could only use like after going through all these different kind of hoops with security, which always takes quite a while. Something else that we delivered, JMS support and large messages. So we have support for JMS 1.1, but that's very basic. We do it on standard, but it's only like a small subset of JMS, so I'm not going to talk about that one. The important one is JMS 2.0. So on Service Bus Premium, we support JMS 2.0. So is anyone here already using like IBM MQ, ActiveMQ, or one of the other JMS providers? A couple of people? Yeah, so what that means is basically you can now just switch your connection string to Service Bus and everything will just keep on working. Part of this for us was also allowing large messages. This is not something that's specifically tied into JMS, but is the reason why we did this. Because a lot of those MQ providers, we saw that people were actually using larger messages than 1 megabyte. So we said if we wanted to support JMS, we also need to support larger messages. So we support messages up to 100 megabytes. And like I said, this is available for anyone on Premium, by the way. So this is not just if you're using JMS, this is for all the protocols. And so you can just use messages up to 100 megabytes. Now I would say if you have a messages are 100 megabytes, have a look if this is actually a messaging scenario or if you're trying to do something else. But sometimes, like I said, it can happen. Like we have customers that actually have like these kind of messages, especially in healthcare. We see this quite a lot where like complete client histories are being moved over the line. So we do support it. So if you have a scenario like that, we can now support that. So it's available for both Java and Spring SDKs. And it allows for that seamless migration. Like I said, I will show the code in just a moment, but literally just import the right package, change your connection factory, and of course enter your connection string, and it just works. And it also works with enterprise connectors. So for example, if you are working with SAP or another big ERP system that often are integrated with these kind of MQ systems, you can also just change your connection there and it will just work. So this is very powerful if you want to get away from, for example, expensive license with IBM, if you want to move away from open source products, or if you just want to say, hey, we already have everything in Azure, let's move this there as well. And like I said, up to 100 megabytes, so you can actually do this. So I'm going to do a demo, although not a demo like where I show you, I click F5 and now you see a message coming here in my Service Bus Explorer. So I'm just going to walk through the code basically. But the scenario we are doing is we have the JMS application that is sending some messages to a topic, and we have 2 subscribers that are receiving messages from this, also with JMS 2.0. So what we first do is we create our connection. So we first create our connection factory settings, and as you can see, this is the Service Bus JMS connection factory. So if you go out to our documentation, you get a link to the package that you need to import. And once you have this imported, and that can be like, you can just download the package, but you can also use Maven or something like that. Just import a package, and this will be available for you. Then you create a connection factory, and here you pass in the connection string. And this is basically everything that you have to do to switch from any other MQ provider to Service Bus. So as you can see, it's like 2-3 lines of code that you need to change, plus adding a connection string. So very easy to move over. And from then on, you can use this as you want. So for example, if we want to work with a topic, so if you want to send something into a topic, you have your JMS context, you create a message on this, you can set your properties. Like I said, in this case, we are using topics, so we can actually do that routing. So we can set the properties that we want to route on. And then we just send this out, and this will then be sent to a Service Bus, go to the right subscriptions, and then we can have our receiver that's going to pick this up. On the receiver side, we have our consumer. So we create a consumer on here. We say which topic, which subscription, and we set the message listener. And so the message listener will be notified whenever a message comes, it will trigger this. And what we do there, we just receive our message. In this case, we just log it. Probably in real life, you would want to do something more with this message, hopefully. And then you can complete the message. And in this case, we use acknowledge because it's JMS. As you can see, this is like, for everyone that has been working with Service Bus, this is very familiar. But this is all JMS. And basically just map all the JMS commands on the service bus commands to make sure this is completely interoperable. Now, the nice thing about JMS is that we get some features that we did not have before in Service Bus. And one of those is temporary queues. So what you can do, what we are going to do is saying, okay, we might send a message, but we actually want to get an acknowledgement back at the producer. So we are going to create a temporary temporary queue, and get an acknowledgement back to our producer. So what we do is, where in our producer, so where we are going to send that message out, we're also going to create a temporary queue. And this is something that Service Bus did not know before. So this is actually something that we implemented because we want to support all the JMS features. So we create a temporary queue. Once again, we create a message. Just to show you, like, of course, Service Bus has different features. So we can also set like delivery delays. So you can say, okay, actually send this message now, but don't show it, for example, until after 30 seconds or a day or whatever. We set our reply to, and we set this to our temporary queue that we just created. And then we send that message. So we have now sent a message to our receiver, and we have created that temporary queue that we expect an answer on. So now our consumer will receive that message and, of course, acknowledge it. But what we're also going to do is going to say, this is actually also on the producer side. Sorry, I'm going a bit fast. This is also on the producer side. So the producer that just sent the message is now also going to create a consumer and listen on that temporary queue that we just created. So it's now just going to wait for an answer. And once an answer comes in, it will get that answer, and then the queue will be deleted again. So on the consumer side, we are going to receive our message again. So we're going to create a consumer. We are going to create a message listener. In this case, our message listener is going to do a little bit more. So we still have that receive the message, acknowledge it. But we are also going to create a message again. So we are going to get that reply to queue that's in our metadata. And then we are going to create a producer that's going to send a message to that reply to queue. And so when that happens, now the message will come back at our producer. The producer will process the message, and then the queue will be deleted. Actually, if you go to the portal, once you have created one of those like temporary queues, what you will see is actually there's like a queue with like a GUID or something like that in there. And that's your temporary queue. So just, like I said, once you are done with this, it will be deleted again, and it will be gone. So this helps for a lot like those, like, okay, I need a queue just for this one message, or like just for an acknowledgement or something like that. So you don't have like this whole infrastructure that you need to build beforehand. You can just build it on the fly and delete it when you're done with it. So that was all based on the Java SDK. However, a lot of our Java users are moving to Spring Boot. So we also have a Spring Boot package for this. And I actually quite like this because it's much cleaner, much less code. So let's have a look how this looks like when we would want to send something to a topic. So we have our controller, our send controller, and we create a JMS template here. We then create an endpoint, so there's an API endpoint. So you go to the users, you send in a query parameter. And what we do then is, over here, this is all we need to do to actually create a message out of that user and send it over the line to Service Bus. Like you see, it's very clean, very easy to use. And like I said, it's a bit cleaner than the normal Java SDK, because Java just is not clean. No, but so Spring Boot is much cleaner to actually just get it hooked up very quickly. And we provide the boot starter for this, so you can just import that and it will give you all of this. So to receive, we create the receive controller, we set our listener again. And once our listener is configured, we can just receive this and process our message again. So as you can see, very clean, very nice. So for those that are working with other MQ products, definitely have a look. I just received an email from a client that are looking into this. And they are coming from IBM MQ, and they said they're moving to Service Bus will probably bring their cost down to 40% of what they're paying now. So that's a lot of money that you can use for other things. So something else that we just released, the minimum TLS picker. So the minimum TLS picker, for those that know a bit about Service Bus, we always supported minimum TLS 1.0, And you could get a TLS 1.2 cluster, but you had to actually raise a support ticket, and we put you on a special cluster that only had TLS 1.2. But if you just created through the portal, you would have minimum TLS of 1.0. Now, a lot of our customers are like, no, we want to have it TLS 1.2 or maybe TLS 1.1. And we don't want to always go to the support desk, create a ticket, wait for our cluster to, like our namespace to be on the cluster. We just want to do it ourselves. So that's what we did. So we allow you to set the minimum TLS version by creating the namespace, or while you can also update it later on. As you can see, it's just a simple drop-down. And once you select a higher TLS version, so if you select 1.2 and you come in with 1.0, it will actually just drop the connection. So you'll still get the first connection, but as soon as you see, hey, our TLS doesn't match, you will be immediately dropped. So this is one of the first checks we do. So this makes sure that you won't get this connection established anymore. And if you create a namespace now, it will be TLS 1.2 by default. So you will actually get this like out of the box, like you will be moved from 1.0 to 1.2, because we do think that you need to be on the latest TLS. And only if you yourself want to, you can bring this to lower. And this is actually a good example of where we are working together with the Event Ops team. So Service Bus and Event Ops actually share quite a bit of common architecture. So this is one of the places where we could build it for one product and then use it with other products as well with minimal impact. So you'll have the same thing on Event Ops and Service Bus. This one we actually announced a build. So some of you might have seen this already. If you go to the portal, to the Service Bus Explorer, you actually see this. So we created a new complete Service Bus Explorer in the portal, and it's completely integrated in the portal. And why did we do this? Because most of you will probably know the open source tool created by Paolo Salvatori, still maintained by, among others, Sean Feldman is very hard working on this. But a lot of our clients are saying, well, first of all, a lot of them are not allowed to install third-party tools just on a machine. So they could not use this tool, or they once again had to go the whole process like, okay, you actually need this, can you please allow this? Which once again took weeks, months for some of our clients. Also, the tool, the standalone tool, is not, you cannot use this on Linux or on Mac or something like that. You need a Windows machine. The portal you can use from anywhere. So no matter what device you're working on, you can go to the portal and you can use the Service Bus Explorer. Another reason we did this is because the standalone tool doesn't have Azure AD integration. And we just showed you, you can now actually disable SaaS tokens, but if you do that, you cannot use the tool anymore. So also that's one of the reasons why we were, okay, we are going to do this, and we have Azure AD integrated. And this is something that, like I said, we released the first version basically, but we are going to continue. One of the things we are looking at is how can we better use that Azure AD integration. So for example, what we are thinking of is maybe we do something around, you get like a support role where you can like resubmit messages, but you cannot read the contact, the data. Like those kind of things we are looking into. That's not there yet. Currently you need to have the data owner permission. But it's definitely something that we're looking into, because now that we are connected to Azure AD, we can also do these kind of checks. It implements most used features from the standalone tool. Like I said, not everything is there yet. But we do want to incrementally bring over new features. And this is also where I want to have your help. Like, let us know what you want to see. I will be, like on the end of the slides, I will be sharing all the feedback forms and stuff like that. But we want to hear from you, like what would you like to see in this tool? Because you know like what you need in your daily work. Like I have been consultant for years and years, like I only joined Microsoft recently, so I do know a bit about this. But we want to hear from you, like what are you missing? What would you like to see? So let's do a quick demo before we continue. Just for those that haven't seen it yet, or maybe have seen it but want to see it again. Like I said, you cannot just go to the portal. Oh, yeah, there we go. Should be there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to show the Service Bus Explorer. Before we do that, like just a couple things to call out. As you can see here, we give you the warning like, hey, all new namespaces will be created with TLS 1.2, as you just saw. And also, as you can see over here, I have local authentication disabled. This is important because, like I said, you could not use Service Bus Explorer if you had this disabled, but now you can. So let's say I'm a developer. I'm creating a new application and I want to test this out. So I create maybe some queues and I want just to see like, okay, if I put my message in, does it come out? Like I might have some receivers or some senders. So I just want to see what's happening here. I want to see what those messages look like, is what I'm expecting. So I go here over to Service Bus Explorer. And what you can already see is you see like a lot of things over here happening already. First of all, we are in peak mode. So I can now peak messages. I have 497 messages in my queue, 3 in my dead letter. So I can now just say, okay, let's start peaking from the start. So this will get the first 100 messages. And now I can start looking into these messages. So I can see my message body, of course. I can see the message properties, with the broker properties, the custom properties. As you can see, it gives a very nice overview right away, like, okay, what's happening in this message. And as a developer, I immediately can see, okay, this is what I'm expecting, or hey, I'm missing something. Maybe my producer is not configured correctly, or something like that. I can also now say, okay, I want to resend these 3 messages, for example. So I can now go up here and resend these selected messages. I can now also like change them, so I can immediately say, okay, I see what's happening here, let's try changing this. And then I can say, okay, send them back in again. And so when I do this, they will send back in, and as you can see, it's now gone up to 500. I can, of course, pick the next messages, so it will do like 100 at a time. I can also say, well, actually, I want to know like I know kind of what message ID I'm looking for. So let's pick this one. So if I do a pick with options, I can say, okay, I kind of know like which message ID I'm looking for. It's somewhere nearby this, and I want to get those 10 messages. So this allows you to do like, okay, if there are like 1 million messages in my queue, there shouldn't be, but sometimes it happens. I can say, okay, I don't want to like click 1,000 times on that peak next messages. I want to like skip to the end of the queue, so I just take a high number or something like that. So that's peaking messages. Now I can also receive the messages. So I can now say receive messages. I can say how many, so let's do 10 of them. I can do this in peak log mode and receive and delete mode. And we go here, then I can start receiving them, and then I can start working with these messages, like I can complete them, defer them, abandon them, and everything like that. And of course, I can also send messages, so I can like create a new message. I can set the properties, and I can also do things here like setting a time to live, the scheduled date time, queue time. I can repeat send, so I can say, okay, send this message 100 times or 1,000 times. And all of this like just from the portal. So I think this will be very helpful for support and developers. Oh, let's move past this. There we go. Okay, so that's what we just released. So I would definitely say if you have not looked at these features, go have a look if they are interesting to you. And now we're going to talk about what's coming soon. And when I say coming soon, that means that we will have a private preview in the next coming weeks. So the first one that we are going to do is scale sets. So scale sets is going to introduce partitioning on our premium tier. So on standard we already have partitioning, was not something that was moved to premium, but that's what we are going to introduce now. And basically what this means is that you will have multiple namespaces in the backend that are exposed as one single namespace, one single configuration, one single endpoint. And this allows for much higher scalability. So currently you can go up to 16 messaging units, where each messaging unit you can get up to like 4 megabytes per second or something like that. So you can calculate like what is maximum throughput. But we have customers that are saying, well, we are running into the limits on this, but we need like that single namespace because these messages actually belong together. So what scale sets will allow you to do is go up to 256 messaging units. So 16 partitions times 16 messaging units. So that will give you quite a bit more like throughput. Of course, every action leads to reaction. You will give up on some things. Because you are creating like these multiple partitions, which basically means that in our backend you are running on different like clusters and stuff like that, it means that you will lose your absolute order. Because your messages are going into different namespaces basically, so like your absolute order is lost. If you want to order though, sessions will still work. So if you want to order, you can still have order on your sessions. But this is really focused on that high throughput, and like I said, messages order is not as important, message distribution is not as important. It's really just like I need to send a lot of messages through. That is where this comes in, while still keeping like all the features like deduplication, sessions, all that stuff that we provide. Something else that we are going to release soon, or at least in the private preview, is consistent low latency queues. And consistent is the key word here. So Service Bus currently runs on Azure storage for the data storage. So sometimes what we see, like we have low latency numbers, but sometimes we see like some peaks because our like connection to Azure storage might not be working. They might be having some issues. And so a lot of our clients say, well, we cannot have this because like we need that like low latency continuously. So these low latency queues, and of course it's both for queues and topics, like for all the entities. But this will give you that consistent low latency. So what we are going to do is we are going to move to local storage. So we are running on Service Fabric, and we are going to move our storage to our Service Fabric storage. So now our data is right next to our processing, and we don't have that dependency anymore on Azure storage. But it's also, and actually this is something that Event Hub is already doing. And so once again, like we have the same kind of architecture. So we're going to have what Event Hubs already have, and we are going to move that also to our Service Bus. Of course, not one-on-one. That's why I'm saying like we are going to do this now. Like we need some adaptation. This will be something that will be coming very soon as well in private preview. So let's have a look at roadmap. So once again, 2 features that I want to discuss. But first of all, I want to have some this is early phase what we're talking about. This is things that we are currently designing. So what this means is I'm not going to make any promises on dates. Like this will come at some point, like we are actually working on this stuff, so it's going to come, but I'm not going to say when because we don't know yet. Also, what you're going to see today might not be what you will see in the end. We might make changes because, like I said, I'm currently talking to customers, like I want your feedback on this. So we might, things will probably change at some point, so what you see today will probably not be what we are releasing in the end. It should be close, I hope, but might be some differences. And especially this one, I also want to say, like, we want your feedback. Because we want to know, like, hey, we are thinking of this. Is this what we should be doing according to you? So the first one, queue purge. So queue purge is something that's very high on the wish list on GitHub. So there's been requests quite a bit. And what this will allow you to do is purge messages from a queue from a specific point in time. So basically you can say just purge everything, which will then be like, okay, this is now the current time, so everything that comes new will stay, but everything that was in there will be removed. But you can also just like specify a date time, like, oh, purge everything older than 1 day, or older than 1 week. Our first focus is going to be on the dead letter queue. So, like I said, of course, we work in an agile way. We have limited resources, like every software company, so we have to make some choices. So the first one, the one that's most requested, is dead letter queue. We do, however, also want to bring this to like the other queues as well. And probably what we are thinking is like you can purge into the dead letter queue, and then from the dead letter queue you actually purge them permanently. Just to make sure that if you make a mistake, your messages are not completely gone, you can get them back still. But like I said, this is definitely one of those pieces where I would like your advice, like, hey, we are thinking this, but is this something that you would like to see? And we also want to make sure this gets integrated in that Service Bus Explorer. Like I said, that Service Bus Explorer is definitely something that we want to build out on. So what we are thinking is that you will get a button there, like purge this queue, big warning screen, like, are you really sure, because it will be removed. But then you can do this. One more feature, last one, durable terminus. So for those that are familiar with AMQP will know the term terminus. A lot of you might not know this. So the terminus is actually the endpoint state that is with your connection. This is basically the endpoint where you are the endpoint that you're going to connect on. And what you have a sender terminus and a receiver terminus, and then there will be a link in between those. So what we see, previously, like your applications were living close to your Service Bus, everything was fine. These days we see more and more distributed systems, like we see multi-cloud, and also one that's very big on this is containers. Containers are meant to break down. So containers are going to break, the link will break, and what you will notice now, once that breaks, your connection state will break, and you will get a retry. So your log will be lost, you get a retry, and this is not something that you probably will want, because you're probably still processing the message. You want to keep that log as long as you're processing it, and you want to make sure that you only release that log when you're actually done with this. So durable terminus will allow you to recover that link. So basically just say, okay, I see that you're coming back like with the same ID, the same name, you're connecting on the same terminus, so we are going to re-establish that link, and this will make sure that your full message state will be preserved. And like I said, most importantly here are those logs. So you also won't have to do like a renew log anymore. You can just say, I create my log, and as long as my connection stays alive, we are going to, of course, at some point, like if your connection is out for too long, once again, we don't know what this number will be, like minutes, hours, something like that, but at some point we will remove the connection, of course, because otherwise you will at some point have orphan connections all over and you cannot do anything new. But as long as you keep that connection, like you reconnect the connection, you can keep that connection open for as long as you want. Your log will stay without renews, and you are in control over, okay, now I'm actually done with this message. My connection might have been broken 10 times. I might be driving around with my laptop in my car with my application on it, for every reason that you want. Your connection, like your log will stay, your message state will stay, and you can just start reuse this. So with that, we're almost done. I have a few takeaways. First of all, we are really building Service Bus for that reliability and resilience. As you can see, we are constantly trying to improve, making sure that you get the right security, the right developer tools, that you get that performance, and we are continuously trying to build on top of this. We are also continuously evolving. So that's what I'm saying, like that's why we want your feedback, because we want to make sure that we evolve in the right way. We want to know what are you running into. And for that, I want you to provide your feedback. So please, like I said, of course, I'm here all the conference. But also, you can always contact me on my Twitter account if you want to contact me. You can send me an email, you can contact me on LinkedIn. But those last two are the most important ones. So Azure Service Bus feedback is our customer feedback page that's there for all the different services. And there's already quite a few things on there. So like if you want something, first have a look if it's already there. Upvote it if it isn't, please add it. We are definitely monitoring this. Like I'm actually personally monitoring this. I'm going through the list constantly. One thing I do want to say here is we want to hear your feedback and we definitely listen to your feedback. That doesn't mean you always get what you want though. Rick? Now, like of course we have to see like how many customers are asking for this. How big of a feature is this? Does this fit into our architecture? Are you asking for the right thing? Because you might think that you need something, but we are building this product. Like maybe we come to you like saying, hey, what you're thinking here, you might think of this differently. So we are looking into this. We want that feedback. That doesn't mean you always get it. Another very important one, the last one. This is actually a form. Like I said, I will be here all 3 days. If you want to sit down with me, like for 15 minutes, 30 minutes to talk about your scenario, please use that form. Just say that you want to have an in-person meeting here, and I will come find you and plan something with you. Just to sit down, like maybe you have an interesting scenario, maybe you are running into something, maybe you want to give feedback on one of these specific features that I just showed you. I mean, we're all here now, we are all in person, so let's use that time also to get this feedback. So with that, I would like to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference. And like I said, please, if you have any questions or just want to say hi, I'm here, I'm available. So thank you.
Covey.co